Hello and welcome. We are now live with our episode 2 of our Live with the Author discussion. And I'm really happy after a very successful first episode with Pascal Magnier to have another famous guest in my studio, which is Francesca Vailati. To make a short introduction, Francesca, we met the first time 15 years ago. So time is flying, 2005 during an ITI during an ITI meeting or during ITI Education Week in Bern. And there I told you about the project of the journal, and I tried to motivate you, because you were new at the University of Geneva, to start writing articles. And it ended up with a flood of articles. So I have to tell you, you are our #1 author with 16 articles in the International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry. So I welcome you really to, it's my pleasure to have you here and discuss 3 articles, a series of 3 articles that were really highly discussed at that time. I remember that there was a lot of opposition, especially from some people you know, but at the end, I was really happy that against all this, and also talking to Urs Belser at that time, to publish these articles to support your concept, and it's gone a long way since then. And I think it's important to discuss some points after 12 years. What are your experiences with this technique that has influenced a lot of colleagues around the world? And I want to jump right into the discussion and ask you the first question. And that's the first questions we will ask all authors also in the future. Francesca, if you had to rewrite the article, what would you change?
Hello, everybody. I thank you, Ale, for inviting me. I remember you and I sitting in this ITI 1 week where Belser told me, why do you go? Don't go. And I said, no, Professor Belser, I think it would be good. And we just by chance sat next to each other. Otherwise, I would have never started writing if you did not push me to. Okay, so the 3-step was supposed to be 1 article, but because they were 3-step, after the first part, because I was not really a writer, I got tired and I sent to you. And after you asked me the second step, and I wrote, and after I wrote the 3rd one. So in a way, it became such a huge article. But until now, I think the basic, the structure of the article is still is still the same. Yesterday, I use my transparent key. I use every day almost. What I will change, on the other hand, is my idea about how to position the mandible. Because if you read the article, I was very unaware of all these dysfunctional torqued mandible. I was treating an easier population that was just a symmetrical erosive patient. So if you read, it's written, just go in MIP, life is beautiful. And today I will not do that. Actually, I have implemented, and if somebody could say complicate my life, because my patients are more dysfunctional, or I can see better with my eyes. They are not only erosive, but also dysfunctional. So again, MIP, it's not just the place the model on MIP and increase on the vertical, on the articulator, the vertical dimension. Today, it's a little bit too little to define the position of the mandible.
So basically, the article, when I read it first, was more like you have a situation with heavy erosions, and the topic was, how can I restore everything without talking too much or going too much into details about temporal mandibular joint. But I think also your experience at that time was, if you have a young patient with erosions, a lot of tooth structure is gone, destroyed, but almost none of these patients have any temporal mandibular joint problems. Is this correct?
Yes, because these erosive patient set themselves free. So if you see when they chew, especially in the initial part, they don't have a retruded mandible. They actually move, many of them, in a forward position. So the TMJ was not really an issue. And because the damage was symmetrical, they did not have any torque of the mandible. So at the end, MIP was good, but I was doing occlusal adjustment. Today, I still do a lot of occlusal adjustment because all my patients first are centered. It means that the mandible should be parked in the maxillary. And after I distribute, I need to have equal contact points. So it's like what people do, tap, tap, with the patient sitting upright, with the head not like, never like this or like this. Is very important, the head position. And after that, my occlusal adjustment are with the chewing gum, because the patient that I just left in my office had 2 implants and everything was perfect. And once the, what is called the G test, the chewing gum goes inside, when he was chewing, he was hitting. And somebody say, hey, but he will never chew a gum. I say, you never know. So the gum is the worst scenario in a function of the jaw. So I had to do occlusal adjustment with the patient not anesthetized, and that is customized. It's like haute couture in the dynamic of the occlusion. That is, I think, is the new trend of what I do with the 3-step.
Okay.
A lot of chewing.
Yes, I saw it in your videos and your latest presentation as well. So everybody's talking about digital dentistry. So you remember that also in the beginning, I was always talking, me being a CEREC user, yes. Why are you doing so much by hand? Why are you not using more computer technology to make your work easier or more efficient? So what are your thoughts about integrating digital technology, not only in the restoration part, but also in the planning part of your work?
From the laboratory point of view, we immediately integrated the CAD/CAM technology. So all my laboratory are worked since the beginning with the blocks, with the disc. So that's, for me, the laboratory, it's monolithic, especially for the posterior, since the beginning. What I have integrated is my workflow clinically, because I have my digital impression. But I am very happy that I did all my study in the analogic, because now with the digital, I can see when the digital seems beautiful, but actually still need a little bit of work, because in my opinion, for full mouth, the digital wax-up give you 70%. It's pret-à-porter. So that's why it's very good. It fits so many people. But if you want to do the fine tuning, I see the lab technicians spending so much time, because there is also a learning curve. While if they had finish the wax, just to add the little minimal modification, they will be faster. So in a way, it should be done digitally to the 70% fast and analogic to the little add. And I think it will be perfect. The problem also that I have with the digital is that I want always to see my model, even though I have all the screenshot by my laboratory technician, and I did a protocol that eventually Alexander would allow me to publish. Eventually, we are in discussion. So I have all these screenshots that the lab technician should provide me to be part of the decision. While I have the model in my hands, I can see 3-dimensionally better, because maybe I come from an analogic training. So I have a printer in my office, but it's not the printer that costs a lot of money and the quality you see. So I am struggling to do my white bite on model, they are not high tech, because already with the analogic model, I was very picky. The impression should be perfect. The model should be poured correctly to get to this white bite directly done with the transparent key. With this printed model, if it's not high top printer, this technique cannot be done.
No, I agree. There's a lot of publications also on this topic, that printing models doesn't make sense if you go for a full digital workflow, because some lab technicians are still used to work on models, but if they then use wrong models or distorted models, then they get really bad results. So then you try in the stuff, contacts are not okay, nothing is okay. So
but I have this lab technician that provide me with the first step, that is this external mock-up. He provide me very nice mock-up that fit in the mouth. So now the question is, if we are going to do this, were CAD-CAM. So I was still with Michel Magne and Pascal. They were telling me that these made already by the laboratory were not perfectly attached to the teeth, and so the look was not perfect compared to what we still do with the key filled with the provisional composite material. So if this mock-up is improved, I can give up the model. But if I have to do the mock-up directly in the mouth, still I need that model. So there are to review many steps of the technique, but everything that is onlay, veneers, veneer onlays, that the laboratory should absolutely do on the digital workflow.
Oh, good, interesting. Because this is also in accordance to what Pascal Magne was telling us about. Do we still need this conventional classic mock-ups? And he was telling, yes, we need it, because the rest is not ready. It will become better in the future, but today, also as an advice to people outside, the conventional thing that you fill your silicone key, put it in the mouth, still is the gold standard if you're talking about realistic transformation of the wax up to the mock-up in the patient mouth. But again, I think digital technologies will evolve.
It depends how good is the laboratory technician, because if he has to fabricate a very thin mock-up and he spends so much time to provide me that, it's not realistic. So that's why the key done in the mouth, it's fine. But imagine also that this mock-up, if you prepare for veneers, and you need to send the patient home with the provisional, this mock-up is done without the teeth prepare. After that, it fall.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do, you have to attach partially. So other problem raised with the digital flow. So I think right now we are not there. So I mix the two, the analogic and the digital.
So you take the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's go to the next question, which was sent in from one of the members of the group. There's always a discussion at the beginning. We were telling erosion patients, erosion is not abrasion. So what is the protocol for patients with bruxism? But I know that bruxism is a huge topic that goes way beyond everything, to sleep apnea, to whatever that surrounds the whole problem of bruxism. But what is your strategy if a patient comes?
I have another potential article, and this I keep producing.
Yes, good. That's good.
This potential article is on anterior conflict to make like the ACE classification. I don't know if you remember, for erosion. Yes. I created this classification for damage by attrition in the front teeth, because I was sick and tired to just say to the patient is a bruxer. So I define dynamic conflict and static conflict. So this is the diagnosis. From a point of view of the treatment, I made a very big distinction between erosion and bruxism. Patient with erosion, I strongly recommend to cover the surface, the exposed surface, because I can see how erosion damage the enamel and the dentin and destabilize the patient and the pulp, especially bulimic. They can lose vitality even with the big, still intact teeth, and they lose the vitalities. And if you think about it, erosion does not affect the ceramic or composite. So in a way, we play with the better performing material. Bruxism, let's say attrition, is a totally different story. Let's not take the people that have both of them. Let's take a pure bruxer. A pure bruxer come to my attention for mainly two reasons. The first reason is aesthetic of the incisal edge, and the second is pain in the posterior, like the patient that I had this morning, is fracturing the teeth because of the way he is overloading. Let's put the posterior, let's talk about the anterior. These people, the bruxer, will end up with an incisal edge very thick. So the internal tertiary dentin, it's very hard, and the pulp will come away. So there is no even risk of losing vitality. So when I look at those incisal edge, I don't tell myself I have to save them like I do with the very unsupported teeth in case of erosion. In this case, this patient can wait. And what? Wait to understand that I don't do miracle. I just do repair. And this repair are bonded by, in the style, Magne style. So this is the maximum that we can do. At the same time, from a point of view of occlusion, more I work with them, more I realize that some of them will age edge to edge. So my repair, like their original incisal edge, will be a risk all their life. So I'm not adopting them, that I will be responsible to pay for the repair. My bruxer, they know that I guarantee only that I do preservation of the existing remaining tooth structure. They come with 1 kilo, they go with that kilo. My job is to cover that kilo with the restoration that eventually will fail. But the way the restoration will fail will be just polishing, little repair with direct composite, rebonding a piece, or replacing with the same type of restorative restoration. Like if it's an onlay, it will be an onlay. It will not be an implant. So it's like we keep protecting the underlying tooth structure. So I tell my patient, if we have this contract, economic contract, that I do the maximum with bonding, I do whatever I can with the occlusion, because I understand their muscle limitation of my intervention. I don't save them from themselves. If they accept, I do a test drive with the 3-step, everything composite, and we watch and see how they are going to age.
So basically you replace the occlusal splint by a soft restoration. So there's no discussion, does the patient wear the splint or not? You just put the splint in the mouth, basically.
White bite, that's it. Yes. And many people love it because they protect their teeth. They feel that they are with the new tires. I really compare to tires. You do the Paris-Dakar, you need to change the tires. You just park in your garage, that you walk just 1 hour a week. the tire will be fine. And I say that more I do, more I into this additive gnatology, and more I'm capable to understand the limitation of my work, but I also have a patient that take more the conscience that it's his problem, and I'm trying to help. But if he has destroyed the original, I can do only worse. And I have to decide, do I do worse in the sense that I use a softer material? So the weak link would be that, like composite, CAD/CAM monolithic hybrid composite, or I go with a harder material. So the weak link could be placed a higher level and could be the antagonistic, could be the perio, could be the muscle. So more you move towards something harder, more you need to do occlusal adjustment. So my suggestion for people that don't want to do all the occlusal adjustment that I do with these people, that is in dynamic chewing pattern, go with composite, because the patient will get some adjustment by themselves.
So this leads to the next question that is related also to your concept. What materials are you using? You showed in a 3-step in the original article combination of palatal veneers in composite and later feldspathic veneers in the front. So it was really a variation of different materials using. So what would be the selection today?
Okay, first of all, we lost the feldspathic. We lost the feldspathic, was the most beautiful aesthetic ceramic, also because our lab technician did not train at the time in lithiodisilicate. So nowadays, they have improved a lot. The lithiodisilicate is not the feldspathic of Michel Magne, because I keep following the case of Pascal and Michel, a 20-year follow-up, and every time I see their veneers, I want to cry for the joy of for those people, because for the patient, because Pascal was bonding in a fantastic way and Michel was fabricated, just masterpiece. So I don't have that anymore. I don't have that type of ceramist, and I will not use for the posterior feldspathic. I am left with the palatal composite. Why? Because at the time we thought that we wanted to make an endo access, because the teeth were so destroyed that we were doing this endo access to do root canal. And nowadays, until now, I don't have any memory that we had to do that. So all the teeth, at my knowledge, kept the vitality. And an article is coming, the scientific article by Irena Seiler, that came to study my patient. This is the palatal veneer. Now, the palatal veneer became more solid because is now only CAD/CAM monolithic. And I had to start to go on the facial because the double veneer is more expensive. And we are really doing on every day, not just the case for your journal to be published. I am really selling this type of treatment to my everyday patient. So with this palatal veneer, they become almost like a V shape. That's why it's called tacos. I can give
tacos.
I can give a very good, reasonable aesthetic to the patient, because remember, the patient don't like mamelons. Patient wants almost white and opaque, because that is the trend. So my patient with this CAD/CAM monolithic, they never complain. When I was doing ceramic with the mamelon, they were always saying, I don't like, because this is the eyes, the taste of the laboratory technician and our taste. They want flat and white. So now, am I doing ceramic for the anterior? Yes. For instance, I just finished this, what I call step veneer. So I will do the opposite. So the lab technician give me a facial veneer in ceramic, and when I bond, I will keep doing the palatal with direct composite to avoid the double veneer and to be left with a facial. But you didn't publish any of these cases that I'm doing, and it's something that takes it's not every person can do that, because the shape is like this circus type of treatment. And the last situation is that do the double veneers. So I tell my patient, you start with the palatal and you can do the upgrade, anterior upgrade later on. And the majority don't do, because I have learned to do better and better the joint in the front part. That was what it was bothering. From the palatal aspect, they are aging fantastically. Really don't have any question about this dental material in the front. For the posterior, huge discussion. I don't know. I am so, I don't know. I have some prosthodontics where they say that their life is beautiful, that every patient receive this big ceramic wall and they behave. My patient, the explosive one, the one that they will end up edge to edge, the only way that I have to save from themselves and to make a longer incisal edge is if I can keep it open, the garage, the anterior garage, so they don't bang. But to do so, I have to put my tires on the posterior teeth. And people say, oh, the posterior support is not stable if you use composite. And I agree. But I agree for the people that grind or the wear of the composite, especially if it's a direct composite. But what about clenching? I have people that not only they are dysfunctional, but they clench. So I found that the garage was open, and after 5 years, it's closed again. And I have given all ceramic in the posterior. So now the question is, what's next? So I want just to say my next crazy things. I will fix one. So I need to put a new layer. But if it had been composite, it would be easier than to replace some ceramic in the posterior to open up. So now my next step would be mix, because I see in the randomized controlled clinical trial that we are doing in Geneva, it's been like 4 years that we are doing this study. So it's a big, with Irena Seiler, is a lot of information that will come out from this study. I would say that if I have the ceramic polished, I can do ceramic all the top. And I can keep my CAD-CAM composite as the replacement as soon as my patients start to hit new upgrade for the posterior, because otherwise I know muscly that these people will end up, even with posterior support in ceramic, they will start to bang because they will intrude. So we are playing with additive, and in the past they were not increased the vertical dimension, but they were doing crown lengthening, endo, very aggressive. So if I were a patient, I would rather have the upgrade every 10 years of the posterior than to devitalize my front teeth.
Absolutely.
It's a type of population of patient that we treat. To me, the people come and they say, we know that you will not touch our teeth. That is the reputation. So the people, even from Geneva, the dentists that send me the patient, they refuse to have crowns. So they say, okay, so go to Vailati. So my population is very biologically oriented, and there are lots of dentists in those population.
Ah, that's interesting. That's interesting. No, that's interesting. And I agree completely that we started with an additive idea, and it should also be kept over the years and not say, like when I was a student, so if I do a crown, I do it once, and that's for the rest of the life of the patient. But I think things have changed a lot, and I'm happy. And I'm happy to hear that over the years that your concept, these ideas, are still alive and are even getting more and more popular, that we are going to an additive dentistry, less invasive dentistry. I don't like the word non-prep, because sometimes you have to cut away a little bit of tooth structure to make things easier, or like Pascal saying, do some immediate dentin sealing to adjust the forms, that they get better adapted also to CAD/CAM technologies, whatever we are having in the future. So
but
this leads to then
the life of the laboratory technician better. So for instance, mesial and distal for the facial veneers, but I want to go with an additive facial veneers, but mesial and distal, I need to make not the crest, they are too thick and after the spinach gets stuck. So I am also aware that if we are dealing with intact teeth, somebody has to prep, but that's why I prefer that my patient, when they get the second veneers, I'm not with the intact teeth, because these prepless facial veneers in ceramic, I want to see the margin. I want to see the margin, because the ceramic margin needs something to be better. And
yeah, so this is the perfect thing to our last question for this interview. Let's talk about bonding protocols. I know that you could talk for hours about this, but it's good. It's good.
Invent anything in this field. I had the pleasure, the luck, the honor just to aspirate Pascal Magne for 2 months in my life, 2004. So I saw what he was doing. I saw that he was, I keep following his protocol, from dentin sealing to the use of OptiBond FL, and the composite is a warm-up hybrid composite. I never use a flow or a dual, because I came from zinc phosphate, where I was a prosthodontist in America, and from there to the Magne style. So it was like a huge gap. I never done anything at different level, because if something fail with all the craziness that I do, I need to think that it's not because I did not do the best of bonding. I need to think that I went beyond the capacity from an occlusa, from a functional point of view, but addition should always be at the top level. And for me, is Magne style.
Okay, so we had discussed this in deep last 2 weeks ago with Pascal, and I'm happy that you also support this philosophy, and I think this is a perfect end. And I hope that you will send all these articles that you were mentioning in this half hour to the International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry, because as you have seen, we have this Facebook group. We are also on Instagram, and we try to be very active to get more also young people, especially young people, motivated to read the journal. And it was very nice, the statement of Pascal Magne, when he was telling me he would suggest 2 journals, the International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry and the Journal of Adhesive Dentistry, so representing also his philosophy on on what is aesthetic dentistry. And yes, I'm really looking forward to
what we are doing a lot with the 3-step is that we are taking extremely destroyed classic prosthodontic mouth before removing and doing the the full arch patient all anesthetized centric relation. No, I do the 3-step. I stabilize recycling the existing restoration, make the test drive And after that, we go by quadrant once the patient give us the okay. So that's, I think, it would be our next step in going to go back to the old classic subtractive prosthodontics, because there are still need to be remake a lot of that. What we want since 15 years ago is that not to produce this patient any longer, because we have the way to do. And so that's what I wish for the young generation, that believe in adhesion, but protect adhesion with function. And that is based on initial diagnosis, why the incisal edge is breaking down before repairing.
That's a perfect end of of our discussion. So thanks for your time, Francesca, and thanks to all listener, watcher. And this stream will be stay on Facebook and also on YouTube. So everybody who has had not the time or the opportunity to see this can watch it later with friends and discuss later. I think, Francesca, if there's any questions, we can answer these questions also later to you. And I'm really looking forward to see your work published in the International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry and motivate more younger people, more younger dentists to go this way of tooth conservation and talk to the patient and check the patient before you start drilling and filling and doing anything else. So I think this is the end message. I saw that the evolution of your technique is also taking more time to learn what the patient really needs. Is that correct?
Yes, it's absolutely. The diagnosis part is essential to understand, because we know all the aesthetic, but we need customize the treatment for the patient. And so that's why the 3-step is my 70% of the work, but I need the 30% to do with the patient, based on his muscle, his brain, his money, so many, unfortunately, situations that I have to keep the time, I have to keep in consideration.
Yeah. So to all young dentists outside, and also to the older ones, talk to your patients and read also the International Journal of Aesthetic Dentistry to stay on top of what's going on in aesthetic dentistry. So thank you very much, Francesca, for your time, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Ciao.